and the attorney. And then following from there, trying to promote our businesses in town. So, and Mr. Mayor, did you have a conversation with Addison at one time about using their channel?
I did, and they will.
Okay,
But perhaps this sounds like something that should be tabled and sent to committee. I would recommend Public Health, Safety, and Judiciary.
I didn't expect it to come right to council like this.
And then we can have more of an open discussion on it.
I'd be happy to put it on the next agenda.
Well, it's actually on the council agenda now, so Alderman Wesley, is that your motion to table to Public Health, Safety, and Judiciary?
Yes.
Is that your second, Alderman Shockey?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item is Elizabeth Park streetlights. Who's taking this, John or Roy? Or Mr. West, Alderman Wesley?
I'm being loaded today. With Elizabeth Park, we had Elizabeth Park Homeowners Association had their semi-annual meeting, and the board asked for a street light on Essex Court, and the conversation went that we needed at least 50% of the residents on that street to approve if they want a street light, and I think everyone got in their packet the favors for it, and there was 18 yeses and 1 no. I take it everyone got it, correct? So at this time, I'd like to ask staff of what the cost is on this to start off.
Mr. Douthwaite?
The actual cost will depend upon how far we need to get, to go to get electrical service. The nearest street light is at the corner of Elizabeth and Essex Court. I went out there a couple days ago and estimated there would probably be about a 250 to 300 foot run if we'd have to take the electrical power from the existing light. Mr. Kramer is estimated that we're probably talking in the neighborhood of about $5,000 to install that light. I would point out that the agreement between the city and the Homes Association that was signed back in the early 90s requires the city to, I'm going from memory now, repair, maintain, and replace any existing streetlights. It doesn't speak to the issue of the installation of new ones, but that's certainly a policy call. And if the council wants to go ahead and authorize the installation, we can do that, and we're thinking about in the neighborhood of about $5,000.
Alderman Police, although once again, this probably, the best thing would be to table to Public Works Committee with direction to staff to obtain hard quotes and figures, estimates what this would cost before we'd approve or disapprove it. Alderman Police?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know a few months ago, we were talking about another street light, and I had brought it to the attention of the council at that time that I had a couple residents ask me when I first got on the council, and basically was told we don't do that. But if this is gonna be a policy, I mean, half the people on the street, or more than half the people, let's say there's two lights there already that are about 200 feet apart, and more than half want another one in between there, are we putting that in because more than half? I mean, we're gonna have to set some kind of policy, otherwise we could end up with a lot of people coming in wanting lights. You know, some blocks are completely dark, I understand. I'm not familiar with this one, and I really don't have a problem with it, but as long as we're gonna have the same policy throughout the city, because I know once we pass one, I'm sure I'll get the other calls.
There has been a policy over the years which hasn't been used lately, but the procedure has been when a citizen wants to add an additional street light, they do a petition up and down the block, and we see if a majority of people are in favor, and then it comes before the city council whether they want to authorize that expenditure or not. Very similar procedure to the way we do speed bumps. Again, if somebody wants it, they see if the majority are in favor, it comes to you, and you make the final decision. That's been the way, at least in my experience, we've been doing it over the last 10, 15 years. Alderman Shockey?
We've, matter of fact, just the other day, I talked to the manager about a streetlight on Walter Drive, and he was going to have the police department check it last night to see if it was a safety issue on Walter. Do we have an answer on that?
We have an answer on both the streetlights, the one on Essex Drive as well as Welter. The police department went out there and has determined that, I would say they're neutral, that the installation of new streetlights would neither help nor hinder public safety. We don't see a problem in that particular area. It's really more an issue of convenience and cosmetics as opposed to public safety.
The one on Walter as well?
That's correct. We went out there in the last day or so. Deputy Chief Vesta went out there and gave me an email in the last day saying, we think it's basically neutral with respect to public safety.
Because there's no light nearby there, and it is a right-hand turn with the cul-de-sac. And maybe the Christmas lights lit it up for the evening when they checked it, but I've checked it, and it's really very dark over there, and it's hard to see that corner when you're driving.
I'll defer to the police chief on that one.
Once again, it does become somewhat subjective, and it's a matter of what dark is. And we went back to our records and we looked to see if there was any contributing factors for accidents and/or any crime issues. We found none, and we felt that the position we were taking was something that would be deferring back to the council.
I don't want to be like the county board and not be proactive. I mean, they've got the restrictions too, but I think this is a case where it is dark enough over there that it would be worthwhile. And I have asked in the past about looking into the cost of solar lights. I think we got a memo just recently that we had like 20 or 25 lights in town that weren't on, and we're paying $50 a month for those lights. So I think if we had some solar lights, and if they work, and I don't know if they do, I'd like to see a couple of solar lights put in just to test them and find out how effective they are. And I was thinking we can put one on Walter and one on Elizabeth Park. If they work, then we can go ahead and put in others in town.
Mr. Kramer, although we're getting more and more into what should be a committee work, but go ahead, Mr. Kramer.
Probably.
We have investigated the solar-powered lights and some LED lights, and we'll be bringing to the committee shortly our findings on those.
Can we then put this on one of the Public Work Committee meetings in January?
Absolutely, motion to table is appropriate, but I think Alderman Winger or Alderman Cadell, somebody else was seeking recognition on this issue.
I can
Alderman
save
Winger?
it for committee.
Okay, is there a motion to table to Public Works with direction to staff to get cost estimates and research
Question.
solar lighting?
Question.
Before I entertain the motion, Alderman Wesley.
If this goes to committee, we're looking, what, mid-January? So we're looking at, what, 1st of March
Oh, no.
for this to go in if this passes?
I'd have to defer to John in terms of the timeframe.
It'd be the
but
14th and
if
the
this goes to
21st.
committee and the council decides at committee level they want to go ahead and give direction to the council, to the staff to install it, John, I mean, what's the timeline? I would imagine we wouldn't do this in the middle of the winter. We'd probably wait until. So we'd probably wait until spring before we actually do the installation.
I would imagine that we could do the installation in the winter months, but I think the main concern would be getting the pole in hand that would match the current ones that are out there. Lead time on structure or the pole itself and the fixture would probably be in the neighborhood of 4 to 6 weeks, looking at ones we've ordered in the past, plus installation time.
Okay. I really don't like taking this all the way to committee, and I'd rather take a vote now on it, but it's okay. I'll throw it to the committee.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. And if I can ask another question.
Before you second it, you may make another comment.
Well, it's on the video gambling, and I just have to make sure that the city
That we can do
manager-
under Items for information only.
Yep.
I'll
Well,
recognize you again.
okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second to table to Public Works. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Bills, Alderman Winger?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion, my first motion, to approve a list of bills dated December 3rd, 2009 for $435,000, $341.23.
Is there a second
Second.
on the question? Alderman, please.
Page 1. AECom, the grade separation engineering study. Why are we paying these guys if they just delayed the public hearing?
The public hearing was not delayed by them. The public hearing was delayed by IDOT. We were ready to go. Our engineers are ready to go for January 12th. And until we can get the sign-off from Illinois Department of Transportation, we're not authorized to hold any public hearings. So it's not their problem, it's IDOT's.
And I did call IDOT and express that I was extremely unhappy that they seem to be on Christmas break already and not having approved. As I understand, it has to be signed off by Geometrics and it has to be signed off by somebody else, and we could have gone ahead with the public hearing. Alderman, please, do you have another issue?
No.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Alderman Lewitton? Yes. Alderman Shockey?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Cadella?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Coles?
Yes.
Alderman Police?
No.
That passes.
I'd like to make a second motion. I make a motion to approve a list of bills dated December 17, 2009 for $1,311,931.91.
Is there a second
Second.
on the question? Roll call.
Alderman Lewitton? Yes. Alderman Shockey?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Cadella?
Yes.
Alderman Winger?
Yes.
Alderman Coles?
Yes.
Alderman Police?
No.
That passes. We do not need an executive session. There are no items to be referred under items for information only. Alderman Shockey.
Yes, as long as we have passed the restrictions on the video poker, I'd like to make sure that the manager sends the Illinois Gaming Board a copy of the ordinance, because they are the board that issues licenses for the video gaming.
He just made a note. Alderman Coles.
I thought we were just gonna keep that in-house here in case we needed it. And not letting them know that we, until we find out what's going on by the gaming board.
Actually, we did pass that tonight. However, I'll defer to Mr. Bond, who can give an explanation as to the way the ordinance reads.
What you've got before you is a prohibiting the gambling within the corporate limits. The reason being that there have been no rules. This ordinance went into place. There was a belief or anticipation that under the statute, there's a mandate that there be rules adopted by the board. That was supposed to be done within 60 days of July 13th, 2009 for purposes of implementing this state statute. That was never done, so there is no clear direction to either the city of Wooddale or any other unit of government that has the authority. So what you've done at this point is, based on the absence of any rulemaking and any rules being in existence, you find that without that direction or those rules, that it's not prudent for the citizens of Wooddale to allow to have video gambling in the city. You did reserve, under the ordinance that you passed this evening, you reserve the right to revisit that should there be rules issued, and you can review those rules and determine whether or not, within the confines of those rules, you think it's prudent to allow video gambling within the corporate limits.
All right, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
And with that, before I ask for a motion to adjourn, once again, wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, Happy Hanukkah, and a prosperous New Year. May I have a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.